But the suburban city that we are talking about is, quite literally, and has been for a long time, world famous for creating in 67 years a matchless living environment for striving, achieving, rather special people and their families. What we say here tonight can be of only relative minor importance, actually, compared with the grandeur of all of your whole community, here in Shaker, past and future. What really matters is the aspirations of all our residents to live an even more culturally enhancing life here among neighbors going the same way. All of us here tonight seeking your approval to hold public office, and for most of us, including myself, this is our first time, all of us can hope to be simply earnest, caring stewards of your dreams for Shaker at its very best. I am William L. Boyd, your systems engineer, financial planner, and businessman candidate to be your next mayor. Your partnership with our people, Mayor, for I believe Shaker has been wasting much of its greatest asset, the skills and willingness of its people. Your full-time mayor for the $10 million complex business that is Shaker shows obvious need for a chief executive officer who will be on the job all day, monitoring the performance of those to whom he has delegated responsibility. Time is very short. I would be your sunshine mayor, opening up your city administration to wider, friendlier citizen participation. One of my surprises while studying Shaker's current government is that, lo and behold, we have no annual report. University Heights does, South Euclid does, Cleveland Heights does, Parma. The fair residents of Parma Heights have a fine report, and the eminent suburb of Columbus, Whitehall, has 143 pages. The preeminent suburb of Shaker doesn't. As your mayor, I would make certain that every one of you, every citizen, had a full annual report in 1980. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Our next candidate for mayor is Kenneth R. Gauntner. Mr. Gauntner.
Thank you, Mrs. Gady, and the League of Women Voters. Ladies and gentlemen, 17 years ago, when the late Wilson G. Stapleton resigned as mayor of Shaker Heights, his letter of resignation dated July 23, 1962 stated, "In leaving, may I suggest that the problems of a city of this size, to be taken care of properly, demand the attention of one who has no outside interests. My recent involvement as a member of the Shaker Heights Citizen Study Committee on Management and Operations convinced me that he was right. $39,000 per year for a 15 to 20 hour per week part-time mayor is a luxury that Shaker Heights can no longer afford. With our budget now nearing $10 million a year, I question the justification of budget allocations and appropriations in many areas. By cutting the fat which exists in our city's budget that is approaching $10 million a year, services can be improved and expanded. Some of my main concerns would be to provide lawn cutting, snow plowing, and smoke alarms for our senior residents with limited incomes, and to support legislation to freeze property taxes at age 65. Also to pass stringent regulations on the conversion of apartments to condominiums and of absentee landlords of double and single dwellings. To halt the deterioration of the Chagrin-Lee Avalon business area. Consider the extension of the Rapid to Interstate 271. Provide a centralized emergency number and communication center for police and fire. Propose a need for council to meet twice a month, not just once a month. Institute a mayor's open door policy to all residents of Shaker Heights. Time does not permit enumerating some of the other issues which I think are important. But my 8 years prior experience in city government has given me an awareness of the community's needs and the administrative know-how to accomplish them. I feel qualified to ask the residents of Shaker Heights for their support on Election Day. Elected, I will be a full-time mayor. I am experienced, I am qualified, I am available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gauntner. And our third candidate, Walter C. Kelley. Mayor Kelley.
Thank you, Mrs. Gady. Ladies and gentlemen, the platform of every candidate for the office of Mayor of Shaker Heights is or should be to maintain, promote, and improve Shaker Heights as the best residential community in the country, to continue the fine tradition of providing the highest quality of municipal services responsive to the needs and wishes of the people, and to do these things as efficiently and economically as possible. I think that last proposition is the most important of all today in these days of frightening inflation. And I can assure you that we at City Hall give the utmost attention to how we can save money and do things more efficiently. That's why I appointed a committee of citizens this year to help us find some of those answers. The decision that you as voters must make as between the candidates for this office, the candidate which can best carry out that program, must be based upon the determination of who is best qualified, and that question must be based upon past performance. I think it is a fair question to ask of each of us candidates, what is the record of accomplishment that each of us can present to you, the accomplishment of the last 5 years of our lives, the last 10 years of our lives, or whatever? What have we done to give promise of carrying out the administration of this city in the next difficult 4 years? The job of mayor has many requirements. The mayor must be a leader. The mayor must get along well with people, working well with council, citizens and citizens groups, working with the administrative staff. I think I have appointed a wonderful team of administrators at City Hall. It is my job to encourage them, inspire them, supervise them, coordinate them, and see that they do a good job. The job of the mayor of Shaker Heights involves representing Shaker Heights in the overall Cleveland community. And I think I have contributed to the improvement of government in the greater Cleveland area in that respect. The issue of time devoted to the job has been raised. I would say simply that I spend better than 40 hours a week in my job as mayor. But I think it's a false issue. I think the issue is not how much time a person spends on his job as much as what he brings to the job in terms of judgment and experience and what he does with his time. I think I have devoted sufficient time to the job to do a good job. The important thing is how I exercise my judgment in doing the job. I would hope the voters of Shaker Heights would see fit to return me to office for 4 years based on my past performance. Thank you.
Begin with Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mrs. Gady. Fellow Shaker Heights residents, I was appointed to Shaker City Council on July 1st. I was appointed primarily because of my background and experience in finance and management. I have worked as a management consultant for the firm of Ernst & Winnie and have provided consulting services to cities, school districts, and many industrial organizations in the community. My background is in engineering, and I am a certified public accountant. The citizens of Shaker Heights have become accustomed to probably the finest level of services and programs available in any residential community in this country. These services and programs have been provided primarily through the generosity of our citizens. We have a history that's enviable among all communities in this country in that we have never turned down a request for additional taxes. However, as we enter this period of double-digit inflation and where housing reappraisals are going up at a fantastic rate, we can no longer expect the residents of Shaker Heights to so graciously give of their tax dollars. Instead, with double-digit inflation coming, it appears more that we are going to have to consider on a regular basis tax increases just to maintain the programs and services that you and I have come to request. With inflation, we have not stopped asking for new programs and for new services in our community. We still ask and we still want these programs. However, we're going to have to generate revenue through new means. And this is going to require a very careful evaluation of all of our existing programs and services, as well as those that we are proposing. And to do this is going to require an analysis of the costs that are involved in our programs and the benefits. If we're to maintain the level of services that we've become accustomed to and still maintain a reasonable tax level, we're going to have to look for trade-offs. What programs and services can be modified so that we can add our new programs and services without overburdening ourselves with an increased tax. Shaker survival as the fine community that you and I know and that we're living here to take advantage of is going to require careful managerial and financial expertise on council. My principal strength as a member of City Council and as a candidate seeking the election for 2 more years is my background in finance and management. I urge you to elect me, Steve Black, to Shaker City Council for the unexpired 2-year term so that I may continue providing my expertise in management and finance to the Shaker Heights City Council, as was the desire of council when I was appointed.
Thank you, Mr. Black. And our second candidate running for the same 2-year unexpired term is Robert G. Miller. Mr. Miller.
My opponent keeps mentioning evaluating budgets and setting priorities without giving any specifics on how that should be done. Sure, everybody wants to save money, but that's not an issue in this campaign. I think people generally agree that the city of Shaker Heights is a well-managed city. We have a full-time administrative manager of this city. Sure, we could save tens of thousands of dollars by picking up the rubbish in the front yard instead of the backyard. Our snow removal does not have to be as good, but I don't think that's what the citizens of the city of Shaker Heights want. I want to maintain a high level of services, or else we'll lose one of the basic reasons that people move into the city of Shaker Heights. I'm mostly concerned with the city of Shaker Heights' chief asset, and that's the people that live in this city. I'm concerned with helping people in their day-to-day problems and solving those problems and dealing with the city. To do that, I think it's important that members of council be closer to the people. I plan on attending community association meetings. I plan on attending street club meetings. I've been going door to door in this city 5-6 days a week since July to find out people's concerns in every area of the city. I will visit all the 47 precincts in this city before the campaign is over. I'm concerned with the senior adults in this city. I'm concerned with the people that live in apartment buildings that are being converted into condominiums. These are people that don't want to move. These are people that don't have the funds to buy their condominium. I think the condominium conversion should be slowed down. I think it's important that we give these people greater time in order to make up their mind whether or not they wish to purchase their condominium or move. I think it's important that the city have an agency to help these people stay in the city of Shaker Heights or purchase their condominium. I'm concerned with the young people in this city. I'm concerned with the people that hang around these schoolyards because they have no place to go. I think it's important that we have an Office of the Youth. You know, the figure of $18,000 has been mentioned to run the Office of the Youth. I don't think that's a high cost to pay out of a $10 million budget to invest in our young people. I think it's important that we have a recreational facility for teenagers so they have some place to go and they don't hang around the schoolyards. I'm asked as I go door to door why I'm running for City Council. I think the reason can best be summed up in an ancient Greek quote used by Bobby Kennedy a lot. Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. Please vote for me on November 6th so I can help demonstrate that a councilman can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Before any questions, we will hear from all of the city council candidates. There are 7 candidates running for the 4-year terms, 4 to be elected, and we'll take them in alphabetical order, beginning with Patricia Coren.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Patricia Forker-Cocking, a lifelong resident of Shaker Heights who grew up on Warrington Road next to former Mayor Van Aken, lived on Linfield as a newly married person, and for the past 10 years has resided on Montgomery Road. Shaker Heights is very dear to me. It is a beautiful suburb, nationally recognized for its fine city services, lovely homes, trees and lakes, and superior schools. I decided to run for council in May, and since that time I have attended more than 50 committee and council meetings at City Hall in order to become as knowledgeable about city government as possible. I would like to share some of my observations with you. First of all, I would like to compliment our fine staff of paid professionals. All are very intelligent, conscientious, and have been very open with me in sharing their expertise, advice, and knowledge. In 1966, Shaker's budget was $2,600,000. The overriding problem of government today is the fact that Shaker, in spite of an income of over $9 million, has run out of money. No surplus is budgeted for the end of this year. In fact, at present time, Council is borrowing from the Capital Fund to cover operating costs. Mr. Schukert, our finance officer, tells me that Shaker next year will need another $1 million to maintain present level of services. Where will this 11% increase come from? I feel strongly that it is time for Council to critically evaluate all existing and proposed programs on a cost-benefit basis. Obviously, priorities have become a necessity. For this reason, I would oppose the new Office for Youth, which has approached the city for a starting budget of $18,000. The school board has already given them $18,000, so that their first-year budget would be $37,000. If there is a lack of teenage activities in Shaker, then it is the Recreation Department staff which should remedy this failure, not a new bureaucracy. I would fully support the fire department and the fine job that their paramedics are doing. Our excellent police department should be expanded so that crime prevention would be more successful. As well as reducing some unnecessary programs, I would also like to see professional efficiency studies be done on key departments. Although Mayor Kelley has encouraged citizen involvement to analyze city services, there is nothing like the experts with their comparison studies of other cities to help department heads to do their jobs better. Not having a paid work commitment, I have the time and interest to spend on our city in order to make it a better place to live. I hope that you will support me on November 6th.
Thank you, Mrs. Carter. And now Michael Gauntner. Mr. Gauntner.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Coren. As we enter into the next decade, the time has come to evaluate our community. Surely we have fine housing, good schools, and better than adequate services. But the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, that our community has aged without being renewed. Our municipal officials have missed the boat in permitting our shopping areas to become second-rate and perhaps even blighted. They've also missed the boat in permitting our commercial tax base to lie fallow. Consequently, each and every one of us knows that the tax burden in our community is disproportionate. And we've come to the point that we're debating whether this community will have the level of services in the future that we've had in the past. This situation is very significant, especially because we're located next to an area which has already substantially deteriorated. Each of us must realize that we cannot afford to ride on the vision and accomplishments of those who built our community 50 and 60 years ago. As a councilman, I would advocate rebuilding the Chagrin-Lee area into a modern and fashionable shopping and professional complex. I would oppose low-income housing. I would advocate uniform and fair inspection of houses and duplexes. I would advocate documenting and reporting each and every citizen complaint to our service department. I would advocate mailing financial and administrative reports to our community. I would very much oppose the extension of the Shaker Rapid to the 271 exit, primarily because that's going to bring that Clark Freeway right back in here where we don't want it again. That exit would be in Pepper Pike, I believe, and if they would open up that parking lot, you would get the traffic coming right down Shaker Boulevard through our community. Ladies and gentlemen, on this platform and other points which I've mentioned in my brochure, I would ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Although I am new to politics, I am not running as a critic of current or past administrations in Shaker Heights, but rather as an admirer of what outstanding men and women have accomplished in Shaker government. But it's true they have been liberally funded by all of us who have taxed ourselves heavily to receive the excellent services we have been provided here. And that is why tonight nearly all the candidates here are going to be talking about finances and the effects of inflation on a municipal budget. Inflation is certainly a challenge, but it is not one that cannot be met. My education and experience are in management, in finance. I have a master's in business administration, and in law. For the past 5.5 years, I've been an attorney with the firm of Thompson, Hine, and Flory. I intend to use that background and to work diligently on council in a program-by-program budget review. Responsible handling of our local government finances means, in my view, that City Council must not initiate new programs unless at the same time it is able to find the funding, either by reducing other programs or finding other funding sources. I have a strong personal interest in successful housing integration in Shaker Heights. My wife Nancy and I own our home in the Moreland area, where we have lived for the past 8.5 years. And in response to some questions I had earlier, where we intend to continue living after the election in November. Our children attend Moreland Elementary School. Shaker Heights has been a pioneer in housing integration, but housing and transportation assets of this city have never provided a more exciting time than now for integrated housing opportunities. I want to be on council to participate in leadership with the community associations, with concerned citizens of all races, and with the Housing Office to aggressively take advantage of these opportunities. Another integral aspect of housing in Shaker is the inspection program. It is needed to maintain the quality of our neighborhoods, and I support it. It is not, however, working fairly because the code requirements are not clear and are not evenly enforced. I support changes which will clarify inspection requirements. You have heard about political party endorsements in this campaign, and you should know that I declined to interview for any party endorsement because I feel strongly about maintaining the nonpartisan nature of local politics in Shaker Heights. I want to thank the many Shaker citizens who have worked for me and supported my campaign, and I ask you to join them on November 6th in electing David Parham to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parham. Our next candidate is Winston H. Richie, incumbent. Dr. Richie.
Thank you, Mrs. Gady. Citizens, fellow citizens, it's been a real pleasure for me to serve on council in a city like Shaker Heights because, in my opinion, it is one of the greatest residential communities in the country. We, the citizens, have demonstrated by our vote time and time again that we want the finer things in municipal life, and we are willing to pay for them. For example, we pay more in Shaker per capita for police and fire protection than in any community, I believe, in the county and perhaps in the state. But we do this for the response time of the police and fire that we so cherish. We pick up our rubbish from the backyard and not from the curbs as other communities do. Again, we are a great community, and I believe some of the credit goes to the citizens, but a lot of it goes to City Hall and the people who run it. For the past 8 years, I've been one of the 7 councilmen, and I hope I've earned perhaps 1/7 of the credit for the job we've done in the city. I have chaired the Finance Committee and the Thornton Park Committee for the past 6 years. I've served on many other committees. I have also served 1 year as Vice Mayor. So reason one for re-electing me might be, we've got a winner and let's not change a winning team. Reason number 2, to provide some glue or perhaps continuity to a council that has lost or will lose the services of the likes of Steve Alfred, Kelley Adams, and Kathy Barber. About a year ago, I began mulling over whether or not I would seek re-election. We were in the midst of some of the most difficult issues we had ever faced, where citizens on both sides were equally vocal, if not equal in numbers. We were in what I would call no-win situations, where whatever our vote, we made some citizens unhappy. At that time, being a councilman was not much fun. And considering my 8 years of service, I thought of going out to pasture. Then the announcement that the 3 resignations came, and I felt that I must continue. So with their encouragement and the encouragement of my other colleagues on council, the mayor, and many interested citizens, I'm here again. This campaign has been very gratifying to me so far because so many people who I think are very satisfied with the way Shaker has been run and who you don't hear from in the 4 years you're in office have rallied to my support financially and personally and have really given me a shot in the arm. I am happy to be a councilman in Shaker. I've been there, and with your help, I'll give you 4 more years of what I've given the past 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Richie. Our next candidate is Norma E. Rogers. Mrs. Rogers.
Thank you, Jean. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm running for City Council this fall after 12 years of extensive experience in civic and community affairs in Shaker Heights, including 10 years on the board of the League of Women Voters, 2 years as its president, service on the Recreation Board, and my present appointment as a citizen member of the Planning Commission. There are important issues facing Shaker Heights in the future. In my view, the most critical issue we face is the maintenance of a high level of municipal services which Shaker residents desire in the face of rapidly rising inflation. To meet this problem, council members must have in-depth knowledge of the workings of all city departments and insist on an evaluation of all programs in all departments each year. They must ensure that budgetary expenditures are carefully controlled and must stimulate the investigation of new and more efficient approaches to operations in all departments. A second major area of concern to me is that of maintaining and enhancing our aging community. To do this, we must have effective planning for the upgrading of our shopping centers, including the prompt implementation of the Chagrin-Lee-Avalon Plan. We must do a thorough analysis, including input from citizens, of all possible plans for new developments in our community. And there must be continued support for the housing inspection program in order to preserve and improve the quality of Shaker residences. A third area that concerns me is the maintenance of Shaker Heights as a successfully integrated community. I support the two strongest allies in this area, the community associations, which represent a very valuable involvement on the part of Shaker citizens, and the housing office. Finally, I'm concerned about recreation and community services. I've been a longtime supporter of good recreation programs and facilities for Shaker. And in addition, I feel that we have a new and valuable resource in our Office for Senior Adults. I feel we have some additional issues in the community service area that will be before Shaker, such as meeting the special needs of teenagers. And these will require careful evaluation by both citizens and the council in the very near future. In conclusion, if I'm elected to council on November 6th, I believe that my background of involvement in our community will help me provide both valuable continuity and effective leadership in the operation of our city government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And our next candidate is Barbara Smith. Mrs. Smith.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing us with this opportunity tonight, and I would like to thank all of you for coming. As I have been meeting people throughout Shaker Heights in my campaign for City Council, there are several questions that I've been asked again and again, and I imagine that many of you have these same questions tonight, and so I would like to try and answer them for you. Many people ask, what are my qualifications for serving on City Council? First is a demonstrated leadership ability, as can be seen in the roles I have played in many organizations in Shaker Heights. For example, as a member of the Thornton Park Committee of the Recreation Board, I was involved in initiating the successful effort to have tables for family picnics placed at Thornton. Under my leadership as chairperson of the After School Child Care Committee, the Recreation Board began this fall at Lomond School its after-school program. Other qualifications which I would bring are a sensitivity to and concern for other people developed in my work as a preschool teacher, and also an analytical ability gained through my training in mathematics and work in computer programming. I also have a knowledge of the City of Shaker Heights and its issues and the workings of City Council from my participation in numerous boards and committees. I think the most important qualification that I would bring is a willingness to work hard, listening and responding to the questions and concerns of the citizens of Shaker Heights, studying and researching issues and programs, and attending community meetings. Of course, people also want to know, where do I think City Council should be going? Most important is working to keep Shaker Heights the ideal kind of community that we all chose to live in. Specifically, this means many of the things you've already heard tonight. Continuing the excellent delivery of physical services, the police, the fire, the trash collection. Developing and supporting needed human services, and I would like to mention specifically the Office for Senior Adults, the Youth Counseling Center, the after-school program of the Recreation Board, and the proposed Office for Youth. This also means a strong and effective housing office program. It means upgrading and maintaining the commercial areas, and it means continuing the housing inspection program, implemented as fairly and effectively as possible. I would mention specifically that the inspection should look for and cite major, not minor violations, and there should be a review of the mandatory 2-year inspection for owners of 2 families. Basic to all the operations of City Council, as you've heard tonight, is the budget-making process. I'm not watching my light, and I'm sorry, and I will come to a conclusion. I would like to hear from you where you think council should be going, and with your help, hopefully on November 6th, Barbara Smith will be going to Shaker Heights City Council. Thank you.
Webb incumbent. Mr. Webb.
I started out with a nice, clean speech, but most everything has been covered quite well tonight. I'm not sure what to do. Barbara Smith usually is asked 5 questions. I'm usually asked just one, and that's, now what have you done, Webb? Richie and I are the only persons up here that were here 4 years ago. And it's good to be back again, and I'm looking forward to another 4 years on council. I feel good about Shaker Heights, about its future, as long as we work hard. Our resources to build that future are very strong, and we have people that care a lot about our city and to maintain the quality of life in it. My goals are simple and direct. Efficient government, excellent basic services, creative ways to improve our operation, programs sensitive to human needs, and my own personal responsiveness to individual requests. Now, everyone can talk about tight financial controls, but when you've been there for 5 years and you've been on 10 committees of council, you know what it takes to get down there in detail and study budgets and study programs, and it takes a long time and a lot of hard work. People can talk about us spending the money and the needs that we have to improve our capital services. We now have the largest capital improvement program in our history. 4 years ago, we didn't have the professional advice. We didn't have the priorities. We didn't have the decisions. Those have been implemented, and we now have the major roads, water, and sewer program in our community. People can talk about citizen responsiveness. I've been there. Hundreds of calls and letters and lots of responses. It's a great part of the job. It's also frustrating. I deeply believe in citizen involvement to help shape our future. We need even more participation. We need more input from you before we make the decisions, using the skills of our citizens to help us set priorities and make better decisions. I've learned a lot about what it takes to run a city in the last 5 years on council, and I want to continue to actively contribute to the leadership of our city, and that's why I seek re-election. In return for your support, you can expect me to be available, to speak my mind, to raise issues, to challenge the way we do things constructively, to make some mistakes, but be there and available. You may not always agree with my position on some issues, but I hope that you will believe that I have, and I will continue to work hard to keep this city great. Thank you.
And now in alphabetical order, we'll hear from our first candidate, James H. Barrett.
Thank you, Jean. Ladies and gentlemen, in our brief time, I'd like to discuss a few of my main concerns about the Shaker schools and then talk very briefly about my qualifications for the office of school board. One concern which is on, I think, top of the priority list for most of us is the maintenance of academic excellence in our schools. I think we're all aware of the fact that it is much more difficult to maintain excellence than it is to attain excellence. It takes constant attention and effort, and we have painful examples near at hand of how quickly school systems can decay if they are not given that careful attention and effort. A second item that concerns me particularly is the issue of individuality. My own children have taught me, and I have 4 children, all of whom have gone through the Shaker schools or in the schools now, have taught me that children are very different. They're not all the same, and we have to be aware, particularly in these times in which there's a great trend towards standardization and modular construction. We have to be aware that children aren't modular, they're individual, and teachers have to be aware of that individuality and seek to bring from each child his or her individual capacities. Another area which is not of our making but is with us, and it's true particularly in the school system, is financial problems. On the horizon, we see continued inflation escalating at a frightening pace. We have seen a sharp decline in our enrollments, although they steadied this year. There is a prevalent Proposition 13 psychology, which is extremely dangerous to a school system since it is the governmental body which is most dependent upon voted taxes. Over 80% of our funds come from taxes which are approved by the voters. And this requires that the community have confidence in the competence and the credibility of the members of the school board. We are also seeing changing priorities, or at least trends of changing priorities at federal and state levels on educational spending, and these may adversely affect Shaker Heights. As for my qualifications, I've been a participating Shaker parent at all levels in the schools. I graduated from the Shaker schools myself, and I believe that I have an understanding of the community continuity that is so important for the school board. I've also been involved in business management. I know what it means to make a payroll and meet it. I know what it means to make a budget and balance it. I've been privileged to serve on 6 publicly held corporate boards and a number of charitable institutions, and I believe that I've had long training in dealing with state and federal governmental agencies, which is a very important function for school board members. In summary, by training and by temperament, I like to believe that I can sit down at a table with people who have different points of view and end up with an agreement that is, while not perfect, satisfactory to all parties concerned. And I hope that I have the opportunity to serve the Shaker schools. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Barbara Gray. Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, Jean. Good evening. As we have been going around to all areas of the community, a question often asked is, what are your concerns about the future of education in Shaker Heights? And I must say that my overriding concern is to keep control of our local schools within our own district. I'm concerned about the amount of restrictive legislation coming out of Columbus, which dilutes the authority of the school board. I'm concerned about the financing of education in the state of Ohio and the effects that it might have upon the quality of education here in Shaker Heights. I'm also concerned that we adequately prepare our students to go out into the world as responsible adults, that we make sure that each student elects a broad-based curriculum of math, English, history, science, and also is exposed to career and vocational education so that they may make intelligent decisions about their futures. I'm concerned that all children be challenged to the maximum of their abilities and at levels of instruction that will best suit their needs, and that no child be prevented from achieving because of a predetermined attitude about his capacity to learn. I also support Board of Education policy on equal opportunity employment, and that we be sure to employ the best qualified teachers at all times. What qualifications do I bring to the school board? As a mother of 5 children, I have actively participated in their education from kindergarten through elementary school, junior high, and through the high school. I have come to know and to work with most of the administrators, many teachers, and many parents throughout the system. I believe I have the ability to work harmoniously with the other school board members and with the administration as we would strive to develop policies and programs that would benefit the education of all of our children. I am available during the daytime when school is in session. That's a qualification that is now lacking on the school board, and I think an important one. And I am very willing to listen to you, to the community, to hear your concerns, and to try to incorporate them into the programs that we need here in Shaker Heights, because I would like to be able to serve you best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Our third candidate is Dr. Wanda Jean Green. Dr. Green.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Wanda Jean Green, and I'm seeking your support for my candidacy for the Shaker School Board. I want you to think green, I want you to vote green, I want you to elect green on November 6th to the school board. I bring to the school board a diverse educational and experienced background. I've been a counselor, a teacher, an administrator, a supervisor, a consultant, and I worked on a number of advisory commissions for the state of Ohio in the area of education. I've been a parent. I raised my child here. My daughter graduated from Shaker, and the kind of background that she received, I like to see that other kids have it. She's done very well. Academic excellence, or the basic skills, have been the landmark of the Shaker schools. It is the implementation of that policy in the schools that drew many of us to our Shaker community. It is my desire to play an active role in encouraging and continuing to develop the theme of academic excellence in our schools as a board member. In order to support the policy of academic excellence, there are some issues we need to pay special attention. They are voluntary integration, our program in that area, increased parent involvement, and of course money. Without the active, committed participation of parents in the schools, the academic excellence that we desire as an outcome for 12 years of school is impossible. It is my desire to work for a stronger and a more active parent involvement program in our schools. The citizens of Shaker are to be commended for their efforts in the direction of voluntary integration. But we still have a distance to go. We still have personnel problems, staff development, and the development of a multicultural curriculum in order to fulfill the goal of voluntary integration. Unless we move in the direction of educational program development that is congruent with our policy on voluntary integration, the outcomes of our program will be mixing up bodies. I seek your support in allowing me to participate in the development of the appropriate educational policy that will make our words and our behavior more congruent. I have been proud of the citizens of Shaker because they have been willing to bear the high cost of the kind of quality educational experiences we want for our children. Presently, the cost of financing public education is a major issue for legislatures and courts throughout this country. There are many issues to be considered. I am seeking your support in trying to participate in the problem solving and the policy development of financing public education, not only in Shaker, but in the state of Ohio. We don't get our fair share because we're an affluent community. I'd like to be in the discussion part of that. That'll be done at board level and legislative level. On November 6th, I want you to go to the poll, and I want you to remember green, I want you to vote green, and I want you to elect green to the Shaker School Board.
We hope you have enjoyed and found informative the Candidates Night Rally. It was sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Shaker Heights. This has been part of the regular programming of Shaker Life, your community television program, which is sponsored by the City of Shaker Heights and the Shaker Heights City School District. Thanks for watching Shaker Life. I'm Douglas Strake. Good night.